All right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, wherever you are. Thank you those who are actually joining us on Zoom, or for those who are actually joining us live on AngelHack's YouTube. Welcome to today's session. This session today is actually much in line together with Celo and Huobi Stablecoin in Web3 and Sustainability Hackathon, which is actually currently ongoing, and we're in our first week in, 3.5 more weeks to go. But today is just one of a session that we have invited quite a few number of people who are in the investment space to really provide a different perspective to help you refine what your idea or submission would potentially be for the hackathon in itself. But before I introduce today's panel and Brandy, who will actually be moderating for us at this panel today, just to quickly go through what the hackathon actually consists of, just to give you a little bit more perspective, especially for those who are really new to us to today's session. So what really is Celo and Huobi Stablecoin in Web3 and Sustainability Hackathon? This hackathon really focuses much more on integration of stablecoins with different aspects that we really see happening really much more in the Web3 space. And one of the things that we really want to see is about how we could develop different utilities of stable coins with different functions, and that it's actually introduced in the various challenge statements that we do introduce for this hackathon more specifically as well. So we do have 3 challenge statements that we are looking at for this hackathon, and lots of prize up for grabs. But the first challenge statement that we're really looking at is the integration of stable coins with DApp solutions. And this track really focuses more on exploration on how you can expand the usage of Celo dollars, which is in CUSD in short, to emerging markets with high rates of inflations, or explore different payment tools and middleware, for the utility as well. The next track looks at how you can integrate stable coins with DAOs in areas of credit-based finance, in crowdsourcing platforms, venture DAOs, and even decentralized charity. We have also listed some of the ideas that could help you going in case you are really interested in this track and hold this really close to your heart. We do have examples of how you can have collateral lending for financially undeserved groups, for example. You can also look at democratic funding to meaningful causes such as climate change, something that Celo holds really close to, and education and other areas as well. The third challenge that we are looking at would be integration of stable coins with DeFi mobile solutions. It's really about integrating a Web3 component into DeFi in this case, and some of the ideas to get you going would be a DeFi plus Earn, a mobile DeFi plus SocialFi, or even DeFi plus interoperability as well. So what's up for grabs? We do have a huge pool of 500,000 CUSD in prizes up for grabs. In this 4 weeks of hackathon, we will be awarding 16 different prizes to teams that have emerged as one of the winners in the various categories of prizes that we do have. So first of all, for each of the challenge statement, there will be an overall challenge winner that will be walking away with 50,000 CUSD, hackathon swag box, and a listing opportunity on Huobi Exchange. Similarly, with each challenge statement, we do have 3 runner-ups with 15,000 CUSD for each team. And we do have a most innovative award depending on your originality and innovative ideas that you have actually came up with for each of the single thread that we are looking at as well. And of course, this is a stablecoin in Web3 and Sustainability Hackathon. What we have done also is to introduce what we call a climate change bonus that has a pool of 100,000 CUSD up for grabs. Essentially, any teams that have integrated any form of climate change or carbon credit component into your idea will have an additional 5,000 CUSD on top of any of the prizes that you will be awarded during this by the end of the hackathon. And this bonus will actually be given out till the pool is fully drawn out as well. So we do have quite a few sessions happening prior this week and also some next week that will focus a little bit more about Web3 sustainability. The idea here is really on looking at how we could have projects that has a more long-term impact, not just in the Web3 ecosystem, but really looking at it from a long-term perspective of sustainability and how it can create an impact to the global greenhouse kind of format in itself as well. And of course, we have also introduced an overall grand prize. This team who have won the grand prize will actually be walking away with 100,000 CUSD, similarly with Hackathon swag box and a listing opportunity on Huobi exchange. So we do have quite a few events upcoming. Quite a number of them have actually gone past during this week, but don't fret, we do have much more happening next week. Similarly, later on in the day as well, where we talk a little bit more about the resources for mobile and web app as well, in terms of consideration when it comes to mobile first, or even in the perspective of stablecoin. So do stay tuned and join us for the various content sessions to help you get going when it comes to your project building as well. So quick question that probably everyone would like to ask is, how do you get started? Essentially, to register for the hackathon, it really is an entry ticket for you in terms of prizes, in terms of resources, in terms of mentors, and other networking opportunities as well. This will really be something that you will have to do first. And upon a successful registration, you would be receiving a participant's guide with all the information that you need. One of it would be the calendar event, the calendar that you can save to your own to make sure that you don't miss out any of the content session, deadlines that you're looking at, and mentor office hours that will be stipulated on the calendar itself. Join the Celo Discord server. That's where all the mentors who have allocated their own personal time to help teams work on the projects. Any technical questions, please drop them in the Hackathon channel that is in the Celo Discord server. That's where you get all the announcements and all the help that you need. And last but not least, we have also curated a list of resources to help you get started. So anyone who is really new in the Web3 space, or you are just kind of exploring your interest in being a developer, all the way to folks who have been building for a while, and you found that Celo is really an ecosystem that you want to create an impact for, we have all that you need to get you going as well. So today, as I mentioned earlier on, we have invited a few individuals who have taken out their time to kind of share with you some of the perspective that the investors will actually be looking at. And Brandy will be moderating the sessions as well. Probably Brandy, I'll just pass the time to you.
Well, thank you so much. What a pleasure. Thank you, Justin, for going over the hackathon, the opportunities. For you folks that are checking out this video either after this event or live, and you're not registered, that's the moment. This is definitely the time to join in. So if you have a great idea, you want to start participating, there's a lot of folks already active in the hackathon and teams formed ready to go to accept new members too. So there's still opportunity to jump in. With that, I would love to kick off the session. First, I just want to share the overall purpose of this. Yes, this is an investors panel. We have some fantastic folks here. I'm so proud to have all of you join us. Ultimately, it's for all of you developers out there and product leaders, designers, and even founders in the space looking to make an impact. You're looking at this hackathon as an opportunity. What we want to do is we want to help you elevate your project, because eventually you're going to be pitching your project at the submission process for the hackathon. You're going to end up submitting a video, and you want to showcase your project's work. And what we want to do is just provide you some insight, ways to help you with some feedback that you can take to elevate your project when it comes down to submission time. But it doesn't stop there. Really, the story doesn't stop after you submit your project. It's about what you do next. And you have a narrative that you end up crafting with your project. We would like to help you give tooling that will allow you to take it to the next level, even after the hackathon. We're strong believers that you should continue to build and never stops just at the project submission. All right, with that said, I want to kick it off with a round of introductions. First off, I'm Brandy Camacho. I'm with Developer Relations at the Celo Foundation. We have some fantastic participants here. From the top to bottom on this Zoom panel, I think we should just kick off intros. So Richard, I noticed you're on the top on my list. I'm assuming it's on yours as well. If you don't mind, introduce yourself and share with the world what you do.
Yeah, thank you, Brandy, and thank you the Celo team and also Huobi team. Yeah, it's a pleasure to join this hackathon panel. Right. So my name is Richard. Come from the Dripper Dragon. So actually, we are a very typical venture capital. It's a joint venture with the Team Dripper as well since 2005. And in the very beginning, we only invest the early stage technology company, including quite a lot sector, like semiconductor, for example. It's about around 2015, we start to invest the blockchain area, starting from Coinbase and Ledger. And 2017, actually, we invest quite a lot of layer one protocol company, or say foundation, right? Layer one project. So as I mentioned, that we actually focus on technology companies. So in the very beginning, we only look at the those companies, they are able to develop the say enterprise solution, enterprise software based on the DLT, and trying to break out or say bring in the new business model for the internet application. So that's what we start with. And going forward, that we have Fund 1 and Fund 2 today, digital asset fund number 2. And from history, we invest quite a lot, say more than 100 portfolio today. And but by saying that, actually we invest quite broad range, including NFT, DeFi, metaverse, and of course the protocol layer Web3 stuff, especially say the smart contract factory for DAO, or say decentralized email, decentralized storage, decentralized media, decentralized communication as well. So we are pretty keen to the Web3 infrastructure stuff, and of course stablecoin would be the one. And if I'm not wrong, actually in the very beginning we also invest in Telegram. The reason I mentioned that is because they also have the program to issue the stablecoin, and later on, of course, Libra. But anyway, that's the long story to be sure everybody know about this. So anyhow, it's very pleasure and happy to join this panel and discussion with you all.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Richard. Okay, I'm going to go to the right on my screen. Ronnie, you want to kick it off and do a quick intro?
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. Hi, everyone. My name is Ronnie Gore. I'm a partner at Flurry Ventures. Very excited to be with everyone here live, and if anyone is seeing this recorded as well. Flurry is a seed stage fund. We love investing in mission-driven companies that are building awesome things, especially with Celo, as you know, Celo builds for kind of with prosperity for all in mind. And that's something that we really, really like to see and we like to collaborate on. And this could be, you know, with regards to climate and refi and DeFi and obviously NFTs and so many things. And so if you are a builder building awesome things with kind of this mission driven purpose, we'd love to connect. And I think one thing to note about Flurry in general is that we see our founders and our companies as a community. We don't regard to them as portfolios because we really kind of feel that each company and each founder and each team is tackling one piece of a puzzle, and we'd love to kind of build out that puzzle for prosperity for everyone. And we're really excited to kind of be expanding on the community and inviting more people in. And yeah, that's a little bit about me and us. Thanks for having me.
Amazing. Yes, I love the power of a well-sound mission for impact. So excellent. Thank you so much. And Barbara, you want to go ahead and kick it off? Would love to hear about you and what you do over there.
Yeah, sure. So I'm the founder and managing partner of Unicorn Growth Capital. We set up Unicorn Growth Capital really to reinvent fintech and invest in the future of fintech, which we believe is really Web3 and DeFi. We're focused on sort of bridging the TradFi and DeFi world, and we believe that's really how you drive adoption, crypto adoption across the mainstream economy. We want to leverage this technology really to drive financial inclusion and create new economies for economic empowerment. So that's really why we set up Unicorn Growth Capital. We're an early stage fund. We invest in seed stage companies, do some pre-seed and do some Series A. And we back really in, we believe that some of these companies are going to be category leaders. So we like to back companies that are sort of building a new category or leading a category and creating unique infrastructure. So, we love to invest in the building blocks of the infrastructure for what we believe is going to be this new decentralized finance economy, right? So everything from, new payment infrastructure, new credit infrastructure, new investments, embedded DeFi, exchanges, new ways of on-ramping and off-ramping people. We want to bridge this sort of huge credit gap in these regions, emerging market regions around supply chain finance, trade finance, working capital for businesses and consumers. We want to bridge all that, huge financing demand with crypto liquidity. And we believe that DeFi can do things that TradFi just cannot do. And we want to solve a lot of these big TradFi problems with DeFi. So one of the key value add I think we bring to the table is we help any company expand across Africa. We have strong roots in multiple countries, multiple regions across Africa. So a lot of our founders want to work with us because they want to scale in those regions where there's a lot of crypto activity. And we believe that's the future of where, the majority of the billion users that are going to enter the crypto world are going to come from.
Well said. Well said. I love that. Okay, Sayan, hopefully I pronounced that correctly. Sayan, is that right?
Yes, you are correct. You are correct. Yeah, like everyone, I think, introduced themselves so well, and they probably stole all my points, but happy to, introduce myself. So my name is Shayan and my background is in academia mostly. And then I have worked with the data all my life. Then I have worked in a traditional VC and I see a lot of, I bring a lot of that strength to the blockchain world as well. And first of all, thank you to Celo and the Huobi for inviting, Cogitant Ventures, and really interested to talk to the, the disruptive technologies that are coming in the ecosystem. We are always looking for the projects that are building beyond just, not a forking kind of project, that have some innovations with it, and they're solving a real world problem. And I personally believe during bear run, if you call it so, really, really good technologies come up, and because people can focus. And about our fund itself, we are also a pre-seed seed round fund, and we are looking into it. We are chain agnostic, but our investment thesis varies. So, for example, last year December, we are very focused on in the near ecosystem. And for example, we are also looking in the privacy layers, but that changes with the not the market movement, but as we have a board structure with a lot of tech people and a lot of business people, we look into what could be the next move, and we try to look into that very strongly. And also about the projects, we invest across DeFi, gaming ecosystem-based projects, infrastructure-based project. So yeah, really looking forward to, like looking into the new founders, who are coming up with new technologies, new ideas. And then of course, along with the funding, there are many other supports we provide, like, connecting to the other VCs, helping build the community, that is a very critical factor for building the mass adoption and so on. They're happy to talk more about it going forward. Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you for attending. So we have a limited amount of time. I have several topic points that I want to cover. What I want to do is I'm basically going to cherry pick as we go through so we could touch base on as much as possible. So I want to focus right now on the topic point of securing project focus. We have a hackathon that just kicked off. These projects have formed teams, they're building, and the iterative cycle of creating products and services can get quite intense. And sometimes it's easy to lose focus. And so that's why I think that this is a good topic to bring up. So the question that I have, and Richard, I want to kick off with you, because when you mentioned about infrastructure, it's like the planning phase for infrastructure seems quite critical. So I would love to know why, in your viewpoint, is the planning phase crucial to the success of projects when they're looking at building in their project in the hackathon? Like, we have infrastructure in place, but there's so many layers of infrastructure. Can you share your insight in regards to securing success during the planning phase for these projects? What's your advice?
Yeah, I think the planning phase is always important whenever you want to start your own startup or as an entrepreneur. You have to think about what you want to do, right? And also the thing you are going to do, what is going to change? What's going to change based on the product or service that you develop? So, and also how you build up your barrier. So that all of things is very important when you are in the planning phase. And then the other thing is about the team formation, right? So I think it's not just for the hackathon, but also for when even a very seasoned guy, they have a 20 years working experience from 500 company, right? Or even you just have a 2-3 years from school. Even you are still in school, you drop off. You always have to think about, okay, now I want to do something. And this thing is going to be disruptive for sure, right? It's supposed to be quite innovative. It's supposed to be able to change something. And then if you put all of together, then you need to make a very good plan. So always the plan phase is very important. But I want to highlight the things, the thing you want to do is of course very important, but I think the most important is the partner. You have to look for the right partner for the team formation. That's the first thing, because it's not possible you can do things by you alone, right? Even the Elon Musk, he is not the first guy for Tesla. He may be the second guy because they're actually the real founder layer, right? So you have to find the real partner. So when you look at the real partner in the planning, you have to make sure something that the guy you have the right chemical with, right? Because you guys need to work together for maybe not 3 years, maybe 10 years, right? Maybe it's a lifetime partner, right? So the chemical must be right, the vision, the consensus, something like that. And then you have to make sure this guy is with a certain integrity. I think that's very important. When we look at a lot of early stage company and the people, maybe the reason I want to mention that is because in Hackathon, a lot of the team is not formation well. They just look for some people. Hey, you are good at technology, you are good at marketing, and you guys just put together. And they don't really know each other, right, from the past, right? So that will be issue then. Of course, in Hackathon, you may just the lifetime maybe just 3 months. I want to get a reward, but that's not something I want, right? That's not something you want either, right? I mean the project I want either. So I think the team formation is very important about the people.
Yeah, that's interesting. You mentioned the team dynamic. Like I've had some wonderful experiences with forming a team on the spot. There's a unique challenge there with I think it's almost uncomfortable when you're doing a hackathon. You need to select your team members, because you do need to divide and conquer to generate a product of some sorts. So what's your, I would love to get your insight. And Barbara, this is going to be to you, because I think in emerging markets, we have like some different challenges, and in crypto and Web3, it's global focus. So you've seen a lot of transformation in the Africa region. Can you share your thoughts about what does it mean for team formation, and what's your advice for these teams that are in the planning phase? What advice would you give them when they're targeting areas in emerging markets?
Yeah, I think, one of the key things I always say, especially in these markets, is that I like teams that have the ability to sort of merge both worlds, both the crypto and the sort of the fiat worlds. Because I think in these markets, the reality is that, to get that adoption, you have to be able to sort of connect with these different ecosystems to get that mass market coming in. So I really like to see companies that have come up with unique ways to do that. Across all industries, whether it's agriculture or gaming or entertainment, right? But they've been able to go into, these industries, these traditional industries, and they've been able to, these industries don't care that there's crypto behind it or there's Web3 behind it, but they believe it creates value. And they've been able to get that, that mass adoption from those industries, within those industries. That's what I'm really excited about, because I need this to penetrate the masses. That's what I need for these companies to scale. So I think that's key for me in these markets, because no one really cares about crypto. They just care about solving their problems. And then the second thing I would say for team formation is, for me, I really like to see domain expertise as well as technical expertise. And so, if people find technical expertise in places that they're, just like you said, they just get people from a couple of places, I get it, but I do think the core team should know the problem that they're solving really well. And I should feel very confident that they can sort of come up with a creative solution around it, and supplement their team with the right technical people and the right sort of product people. And the reality, to your point, Brandy, is that in these markets, you have to reach outside of your markets, right? Creating these huge developer ecosystems, it has to be global, right? And that's the power of this remote work experience we've gotten, is that we don't have to think about our markets. We can think globally about getting people from different countries and being part of your team. So being able to manage that global network, I think, is a skill set in itself. And it takes a different type of person to do that. So having founders that can demonstrate that they can manage that, and they can build sustainable companies around that, I think it's key these days. So those are some of the things I would say. I hope that answers your question.
Oh, it does. It provides great insight. It makes me think, I'm wondering, how do you find the right team members? I've been challenged with this, I feel like, my whole life. And I would love to get your feedback in regards to basically what's your advice for the person. Typically, there's a decision maker from a team formation stage. There's that one person that has the vision, they're recruiting, they're building a team. What's your advice for them when you're trying to move fast?
Yeah, I think you've got to just do it. You can't waste time. Whoever has that vision just needs to execute it and just corral the right people around them. It's tough. I mean, this is the hardest part about anything, right? Even as fund managers, we're always dealing with managing teams and building team, but whoever has that vision is responsible for getting the right people, or just getting anyone to execute on that vision. And things will evolve over time. I think part of this, to be honest, is just in the early stages, like you said, that planning phase, it's really about just getting it up and going. And then once you've demonstrated it, then it's easier to corral more people into your vision. But in the beginning, you just want to get it done. You want to show that you've you're creating value in the ecosystem, and then people start coming, So I would just take it in stages, and things fall into place over time.
It sounds so simple, I gotta admit, these stages. But Ronnie, I know you have some additional context here with some insight, especially when it comes down to the difference between being present in the physical world to connect with one another and then being virtual. So maybe you can kind of take the spin on this from a virtual side standpoint. What's your advice for folks that are working in these projects and trying to recruit new team members, and it's virtual?
So I think there are issues that they cross kind of, it doesn't matter if it's virtual or in person. I think, like mentioned, building the team is such a critical part, and it's so difficult that my kind of like advice is, if you are the person, if you are the visionary, if you are the founder that is tasked with everything that will happen and team building included, I love to see founders and I love to see visionaries come vulnerable and really answer, what am I missing? Which is basically answering, what am I not so great at? And then being super open and putting your ego aside to like welcoming people who are smarter than you, who are better than you at some things, that can, there was a good example with Elon Musk and another founder that are maybe complementary on things that you are lacking. And that really entails looking inwards and letting go of any kind of little elbowing or any ego that people tend to have. And to all of the builders out there and the founders, investors see this. Investors know when they're sitting with you and are chatting with you about the team or with you and the team, they can see that relationship. And I won't speak for the member panelists, but I know for me, team is one of the most crucial things I look at. And not only like the experience that each founder will bring, which is very, very important, but almost kind of the collaboration between them and the potential for any hurdles, because we see this, we feel this, we vet teams and projects day in and day out, that you really need to come from a very genuine place of knowing what you're lacking and filling that in. And to the second point, Brandy, about it being virtual, I have team members within Flory that I have yet to know that they have legs, because I literally just see them in the Zoom boxes and I'm not certain that they're 3D. But having said that, we do put a lot of emphasis on meeting in real life, because that has a lot of impact. That also has a lot of impact on the community, right? We just did this founders retreat for our founders in Barcelona. And I was actually really, really surprised about how valuable that is compared to 100 Zoom calls we can do with the community. Just that one day gathering. So that's kind of like why physical presence is important. But I also want to talk about the flip side, which I think Barbara discussed here, which is it also opens a lot of doors. Your team can truly be global, and that could help you penetrate into markets. And in my opinion, maybe even more importantly, create diversity around your table. So diversity of people and culture, but diversity of problem-solving skills and technical skills and marketing people, just diversity in everything. And to me, that diversity, that looking at things differently, that having smarter people than you in the room problem-solving the same problem is what elevates and will help the team, the founder, the company at the end of the day take that extra leap and make sure that investors know who they are, remember who they are, and want to invest in with it.
I love that. I love that you address the diversity, because that's one thing I love about Web3 is the diversity spectrum is widening. So I've been in tech for a very long time. It was quite beneficial early on because there's no lines in the restrooms. I think we talked about that before. And so now in Web3, I see a tremendous amount of growth in diversity, and there's still so much more room to work here. And also noting the fact that diversity is extremely important when it comes down to your team, because it does foster unique and interesting ideas. We shouldn't be stuck in just one silo. It's joining each other's silos to come up with some creative solutions that otherwise wouldn't have been thought of before. So I love that you touched base on that. Cheyenne, I would love to get your feedback on this. Maybe you can touch base on the early stage process. So let's take it a step further. The team is formed, and they're starting to work. What is it that you look for with these teams? And let's just also kind of throw a curveball in there. Like, what happens if you think that you see a potential problem? What's your advice to the founder? Like, how do you address that feedback?
Right. Yeah, that's a very interesting question. And, and projects need to know that as well very early on. So for me, whenever like being in the calls all the time, I can tell you, like, which founders are very passionate. And so, you can really understand in the conversation, some people are talking about not the tech, but everything around it. And that is not something bad, but I'm just saying, I can clearly see when someone is passionate, and, my inclination generally goes towards those projects. I have personally seen historically those projects to be winners. And so that is something I really take a look at. And at Cogident, we do our deep dive, tech review, business review, whether there is competitive landscape, all this thing happens. And then when you're talking to the project, I have seen that multiple times that makes or breaks a deal to go in or not. So that is something that I would add to other points and other panelists have added. Potential problems, what I've seen generally is that not receptive to the feedback, because when we are investing early on, then I have seen like nobody knows everything, and we have to accept that to start off. So like, for example, suppose, I'm an expert in a subject, does not mean that I even know everything about that subject, and being accepting that fact is very, very important. And when I'm talking about a project, and I think someone mentioned that, to hire people who are maybe better in tech or better in, how to communicate, maybe, that is very, very critical. Sometimes you can make a great project, but, you are not communicating it well. I think that's at times that is a deal breaker, right? So finding right person for the right role is critical, and being, beyond that ego that, these people are better than me, so what, but it's my vision of the project that he can be proud of, and then put together the team and then go from there. But I've seen multiple times that, early on people are not receptive. Someone does not know about tokenomics, which is fine, because I don't want devs to know about tokenomics. That's not a very hard thing to learn. Now, so when you do not know that, just accept it and just learn it fast. So that's what's I will say, like, paying attention to the other, like what the VCs are coming in and saying. So nobody is, forcing you to listen, but the point is that maybe he has a good point. Or maybe, and it can be in different aspects, like, for example, a DeFi project. I've been in a call, I'm giving a very, very, an example on one end of the spectrum. So that DeFi project once told me that, I'm forking the project, so I don't need to audit the project. So, I mean, that's not something like, that makes sense, right? So at the time you have to be receptive to the other side. I mean, this will be my most two important points.
Yeah, good feedback. So you mentioned move fast, especially when it comes down to like feedback, and basically that's iterative cycle. And in the development, software developers, they learn to iterate quickly. I mean, that's the life cycle of product development.
Right.
When you're thinking about moving fast and you're so early on, I would love to get your insight what's your advice during the MVP cycle, that minimal viable product cycle, when it comes to, you know, these teams, they form, they plan their strategy, and now they're building an MVP.
Right. So
yes.
yeah, sorry, go ahead. Yeah, so I'm just saying, like, you know, I'll probably say, I think Richard mentioned this point actually. So I think when someone is, so MVP is like you are creating the first initial product, right? Like that is probably solving a problem. So at first, defining the problem, I think is the hard nut to crack. You know, sometimes it can be, okay, I'm solving this problem, I'm making a project, but what this project is solving, the major problem that is existing in the current ecosystem, understanding that in and out is probably hardest thing to do. So at first, defining it and maybe write it down, like, okay, these are the 5 different things I'm trying to do with my project, and then have a more of a consultant mindset. So if you are trying to reach from point A to point B, that's the goal, that's the MVP maybe, you know, reaching point B is the MVP. Then break it down into individual chunks and then see what are the barriers in each of the steps. And then slowly, you know, like, you know, slowly unravel each one of them and go. And once you are going from one to another, I bet at every step you'll say, okay, I thought this should be happening like this. Let me, you know, reiterate it. So like, you know, for example, I can tell you, when I started my PhD, I thought I'll wrap it up in 4 years. It took me 7 years. So it just took me double up my years, you know, to do it, because what I thought would be done in 1 month, that ended up taking 6 months at times, right? And accepting that thing, you know, not taking extra stress about it. And that is where you bring in other smart brains. You know, you always see that another person has a very interesting idea, very interesting feedback. And again, going back to the previous point, that, you know, accepting it and, you know, like going back to the blueprint of it and say that, okay, how can I, you know, like pivot from there and make something that will make sense. And it happens all the time. And like failing the first step or failing the initial MVP is not like, you know, make it or break it, because if you have the right question, what you are trying to solve, finding the solution or the way to the point B is the actual critical part. There's a journey, right? So it can be achieved in multiple ways. If the first phase fails, the second phase may be leading to the success, and that might be the right way. So that's what would be my advice. I think hopefully that answers your question.
Well, thank you very much. This question is going to go to Richard. Richard, we were just touching base on the MVP and moving fast. I would love to know, from your point of view, when you're looking at these projects, you want to give them advice, is high fidelity MVP important, or is wireframes acceptable?
Well, I would say in general, MVP is very important, but in some special case, right, we do just fund the idea, but that's very special, very minimal. And I would say, why the MVP is so important, I think it's very simple and straightforward. As an investor, right, we invest the capital and resource, and we also want the funders, the team, to invest something, not necessarily the money, right? But means they need to invest their time, maybe 1 year, maybe 6 months, I don't know, but they need to invest something. That's in a way that's self-funding, right? So when they invest their time, say 6 months, 3 months to develop product, and that's very critical for us, because we want to know, yes, you devoted on this project. I know you don't have money, you need money from us, but you need to devote your something, right? So you will feel that it's something you really want to do. And in the other way, the MVP is so important is now today, even we invest early stage, but we still like to sense if this product is market proven already. So when we say market proven, it's not necessary you have a mass adoption, right? It's not necessary, but at least you need to get some alpha customer feedback. So you can do some internal test run, right? So that's why MVP is so important. So I think for now, I would say in the past maybe 20 deals that we invested already, I believe more or less they have the MVP at least, or they even have some subscribers already. So I think that's crucial for sure.
So on the high fidelity side, to me, that can get quite complicated. You know, fidelity, everybody has different ways of defining fidelity. So Ronnie, this is going to be to you. When we think of these early stage projects and they're building the MVP, and they're thinking about functionality, fidelity can go multiple ways. High fidelity could be in the design, or high fidelity could be in the function. And sometimes there can be many functions in MVPs, and others it'd be quite simple. What's your advice to projects that are just getting started with their MVP? Should they be focusing on high fidelity functionality with their MVP or not?
I'll give you a lawyer answer, which is definitely maybe. I think my answer would change per the project and per the problem that is being solved. I do love what Richard said, that, hey, if I'm investing money, you are investing your time and effort. And when I see the MVPs, or when I actually see a viable product, I know that you are hitting milestones and that we are together on the right trajectory. But I want to answer this from kind of like a different perspective, which is when you're pitching and you're pitching amongst 1,000 other companies that are pitching as well, I think that it really strengthens your position when you can storytell and prove what it is you're doing. And that could be in different ways, right? So that could be MVP, and that could be a mock-up, and that could be telling the story of the user experience in a very visual way that I will understand as an investor. And that also can help you, right? It just depends on where you are at and what stage you're in. And I also want to be cognizant of the fact that builders tend to get lost in building, which is fair, because that's what you're doing. You want to build, and you want to build something really well, and you want it to be 100% and 1,000 times, checked. But I think the reality of the fact is that that is a dangerous assumption to cling on, while and builders and founders should definitely gravitate towards ship and iterate, because that will show you, the team, your users, your waitlist, your investors, that kind of projection and that kind of roadmap, and the fact that you are hitting your stride. And that entails, to the earlier point, that also entails that you got some feedback and you listened to it and you built from it. Because I think that if you're just like, I have to have the best MVP out there, it needs to work flawlessly all the time, I'm concerned that you will be kind of left behind in terms of in terms of investors being able to look, understand, see the potential. Because at the end of the day, I mean, some of us, we also do some growth, but mainly seed. So we know that you're early on. We want to hear the story. We want to make sure you understand the problem and how you're solving it and why you're the right person to solve it. And yes, I want to see something. I want to understand like the flow of everything. But and if the more you have some sort of like MVP demo, whatever it is, the more I am inclined to trust that. But please be cognizant of the fact that if you fall into these cycles of like, no, but I have to build this and I have to build that, and you're not open to like the feedback out there, or you're not cognizant of like where you are on that road, you'll be stuck in the beginning and won't be able to like kickstart it. So that was my definite maybe answer for you.
I love it. The lawyer version. I love that because there's so many variables. It is tough to answer. What's your thoughts, since you mentioned narrative, what's your thoughts in regards to utilizing wireframes if you have a good idea and make the wireframes functional? So let's imagine it's a Web3 mobile application experience, no color. We're talking just wireframes. very simple, but the narrative's there, the functionality is there. From your viewpoint, is that perfectly acceptable, or should developers and these teams invest in time and strategy on the design side during the MVP?
It's a good question. My heart is always, our eyes, and if you're a visual person, will be very attracted to design. But in these hackathons, when when it's time crunch, you form this team that you haven't vetted for very long, and be very focused. Like, understand the problem, understand how you solve it, and it's perfectly fine if you show it to me in these wireframes. I think that is the base. The base is that you understand it well and you can translate it very well, right? Because a lot of people in front of you won't be developers, won't be very technical people, won't be this and that. They'll be investors with capital who want to back, a diverse group of people that are trying to problem solve real world issues. And as long as you have, the wireframes are like the skeleton, and the more you kind of combine that with the real ability to storytell, and I'll also say this, storytelling with the soul, because at the end of the day, investors see so many projects. It's great if you have a 3-minute pitch down, it's great. But what we remember, or I'll speak for myself, what I remember at the end of the day is the light in the eyes of the founder when they were talking about a specific thing, or the personal story of like why this is the problem they're trying to solve. So to your question, wireframes are a base. Storytelling and a compelling storytelling is also a base, and only when it's combined, it's acceptable. And of course, anything more is it just helps you. It makes me remember the team, and I think it also helps the team understand all the layers better.
Excellent, thank you. Great advice. So Barbara, I would love to hear from you. I know that we're getting near the time here on our discussion, but what I would love, since we discussed MVP, maybe you could shed some light, like how can these projects, they have an MVP, they did the balance, they have a narrative. What is your advice to these teams when they're targeting support from investors specifically? It's not just submitting the project anymore to a hackathon, they're actually targeting the investment side. What's your advice?
No, I think the first step is realizing that this isn't just a hackathon project, right? This is first step towards being able to go to investors and ask for that initial capital to build a company. I think investors are going to be looking at it like that, right? We're looking at investing in companies, not projects, right? So showing that you've sort of gone beyond your project and refined it, and now are sort of bringing everything together, right? Your team, your revenue and business model, your go-to-market strategy, on top of your wonderful product that you've demoed and you've created a great MVP for. So I think that's the key, is to bring it all together, I think, and being able to demonstrate that in your pitch video could be also really helpful for investors. The reality is a lot of investors come to these hackathons to get early access to companies that are doing innovative things. So being able to be ahead of the game and show them that, look, we're also ready for capital. We're building, because at the end of the day, people are literally raising money off of wireframes. I mean, I've seen a ton of wireframes. When you made that point about wireframes versus MVP, I was like, did I make a bad decision there? I do think sometimes with B2B, especially in the B2B space, I think you can get away with wireframes. But I think if you're doing something really interesting on the consumer side, I do want to see your UI and I want to see how you designed it. But yeah, that's what I would say. It's like, show that you've thought through a lot of these different things. I know it's early, but if you can do that, you would sort of get some investors reaching out right away, actually, and people want to get in early. So,
Makes sense. I was just thinking, wireframes, they could actually be quite fun. They can get across the idea And I'm thinking about there are these founders that don't have that creativity. They don't have the design side, but they're focusing on trying to establish the narrative and make sure something tangible that you can utilize. What's your advice on those founders that lack the talent, but they want that talent, they want to grow, they're open to the feedback? What's your advice to these scrappy founders, these scrappy projects that have the energy to go to the next level? How do they get there? That's to you, Barbara, on you.
No, sorry. You broke up a little bit, so I missed what you said. But essentially, like scrappy founders that, when you say scrappy, what do you mean?
Well, scrappy meaning that they know they lack the depth of talent on their team.
Yeah,
right?
got it.
They don't have a designer on their team. They're not good on the design side. So of course, the only thing they can do is a wireframe. But they're doing good on the narrative. They're doing good on the functionality of their MVP. But they would like to expand. They would improve it. What's your advice for them? The folks that are scrap. I'm sure you've seen it before.
And look, I've made decisions on that. And for me, it's domain expertise. I go back to it, like then founder market fit. Those are two things for me. We invested in a company that's sort of building a decentralized a platform that's sort of integrating with marketplaces and providing DeFi liquidity to them. And we just saw wireframes. There's no one else in the market doing this. It's in these regions in Africa. It's completely new. And for us, we felt the founders had the experience to get those marketplaces to understand the credit systems and how to sort of bank and finance those marketplaces, and they're still looking. I mean, we're helping them, looking for some product people and design people, but they showed us wireframes. They showed us how they're going to build their tokenomics and everything. And for scrappy founders, show that you really understand the problem, that you have that domain expertise, and that you have a creative solution to the problem. If you have a first mover advantage, if there's something unique really highlight that. Because that's why you take that sort of bet, right? Web3 is still early. There's still a lot of things to innovate on. So I think, and people are trying to back those guys because, once you start, other people are going to do it. And, this ecosystem builds on top of that. So, it's important to actually back guys who are coming up with unique infrastructure, right? Even though they're scrappy, it's easy to sort of bring some people into their team later on. But right now, it's just showing that you've got that solution very clear to the investors, to the judges, and then your path to bringing in the right people to your team.
Excellent. What great advice. Cheyenne, do you have any closing remarks on this topic point?
I mean, I think, if I summarize it all, so I think it kind of already mentioned that I think the discussion needs to be very rational. I don't think like I can just say like what I would do if I'm a founder and I am making something innovative and not like, that is kind of a copy paste. I don't expect that, when I'm going for pre-seed or seed round, I will have everything ready. I don't think that I might be in that stage. What I see is like what some of the people already mentioned, that what is the pedigree of the founder, whether he has been relevant in that space in the Web2 or in a normal traditional world. If they have that, then I know that he understands the critical blockages that that particular domain or the industry faces. If they understand that critical problems, finding solution is much easier. If you do not know what's the question, where it will be, you're going to face blockage down the line 1 year, that's something else. Like I can give you an example, some kind of payment company, like what suppose JP Morgan does, for example, for suppose like traditional banks. Now, if you're trying to bring on the blockchain side of it, certain continents won't even take that as an option. You won't be, legally possible to do that at this point of time. So understand, not having an idea about that, like, and you discover it after a year, and then you cannot bootstrap your project at that point. So this kind of clear concept about what actually you're building. That's why that's what I said in the last point also, like, having a blueprint of how to reach point A to point B, and then cut it down, and then look into them and iterate it as you are getting feedback. So if I'm talking to, I think we all are probably here pre-seed seed round fund. So I maybe, like my idea is that I don't expect them to have everything. They can answer all the questions with clarity, and then they're raising the fund, right? And there's a purpose of that fund. The purpose of the fund is that you make your team bigger, you bring the right talent for your team, and of course, ask for the help to the VCs. I mean, that is so critical because, if you don't ask, how I know what is your pain point, right? So I can tell you, I raised for privacy protocol for a long time back. That was the only project that came to me and asked for a UI UX support. And I have a friend who is like a UI UX expert for a top tech company in Silicon Valley for last 10 years. I had never any doubt that he's going to do a good job. So he did me a favor, and they loved his work, and which I have never doubted. But if they would not have asked me, the UI UX is not going to be, up at that level. And also, like in the pre-seed seed round, I don't think that UI UX and how the website looks, yes, those are very eye-catching. If I see a good slide deck, of course, I'm a visual person. I'm going to have some sort of, they might have an added advantage. But when you are in the call, when the research team is doing the research, even from a white paper, like I talked to one of the projects where they just have something in the Google Doc written. What's the problem? How they're trying to solve it, and what is the team's background. I was pretty, sold by that, by the team's background and how they define the problem. Now, slide deck or not, that was good enough for our research team to move to the next step, which is the call. And then we are pretty convinced enough. And then after they raise the seed round, bigger fund move in, they made a much better team. And then the website and those things are like, it's not, I think that I will decide my judgment if I'm raising in the pre-seed seed. And of course, when you're going to the later round, you have raised the initial fund, then people need to see your work. What have you done with the fund? At what stage of your project is that it is a right market fit at this point, and how you have bootstrap it. Those are the things that the people coming in private or the last round are trying to take a look at. So I think I kind of summarize maybe some of the people's point, and hope that helps.
It does. Thank you so much. We are at the end. We're a little extended, but I want to give everybody just one chance to, do a closing remark here. So Richard, do you mind? You want to go ahead and share any closing remarks?
Yeah, definitely. Yes, you know what? We looking for the people have the great dream and trying to change the world, right? And I will give some advice that for the team, for the project, for founder, they also need to due diligence the investor, due diligence the institution. Not just the funding that we are going to bring them, right? Also including all the different resource. What kind of leverage that we are able to support them? What kind of syndicate resource that we are able to bring to them? So. And we are really patient, and we can stay with company for a long time or short term. What's the fund size? What's the fund life cycle? And how we expect how do we expect the exit, right? So I would advise the team that when they select the investor, even angel investor person, right, they need to due diligence themselves to make sure they match each other.
Nice, thank you so much, Ronnie.
Yeah, I think this really piggybacks off of what Richard just said. To all of the founders out there building, you will hear no's, and that is okay. Those no's can be taken later, and you can work on, and you can, iterate or whatever it is. But more importantly, like Richard said, that might not have been the angel or the VC for you. And when you kind of welcome funds, which means you welcome someone to your cap table, you kind of welcome them to your ecosystem, kind of welcome them to your community and team, there needs to be a match. And I think all of our money is equally green or crypto or whatever it is. So it really is about what that value add that angel or that VC can offer you. And it depends on what you need. So be cognizant of that. And I know we're talking in bear markets, And during crises, we're less picky and we're much more focused. But this is a partnership, and it needs to be DD'd, or at least it needs to make sure that it is a match for both of us. And my last point is that when it's a match, yes, raise your hand and tell your VC what you need, what you are lacking. Update them consistently, because this is a match and we both equally want this to be successful. So we both equally need to show up for it.
Excellent. Barbara, closing statement?
Yeah, I would just say, just keep going at it. I think this is a very new technology, new economy, new world, and there's so much to do. If you don't get it right the first time, just go back and come up with something again. But what I would say is try to solve real hard problems. We've all gotten excited about this whole space for a reason. Stable coins, it. So let's use it to solve real problems. Let's not be coy. Let's not just do crypto for crypto's sake. Let's go out there and let's start making this really make a difference. So I say, just keep going at it until you find what sticks.
Amazing. Thank you so much for all your time. Really great advice. I sure did learn a lot. I'm hearing diversity in each of your feedback. Fantastic. I really love the knowledge share here. Thank you so much. Thank you for watching. All right, that concludes our session. Hope you all have a fantastic day, evening or night or afternoon. Depends. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Brandy.
Thank you.